those 15 minutes were a long 15 minutes.
It was a Pentecostal 15 minutes. 1, 2. Okay, so we're here on another episode of our podcast, and we have the one and only Joanne here. And thanks for being on here, babe. We love you. And Andrew's obviously here with us. Emily's in the studio as well. And we're going to take a couple of topics to discuss. One big one, though, but before we do, we want to just acknowledge today's sponsor, which is selfimpermanent.com. And our selfimpermanent.com. Selfimpermanent.com.
I'm good.
And all of you parents who are interested in getting cell phones for your kids, or they already have phones, I urge you, please get them through selfimpermanent.com before giving them a phone.
A great video course, about 8 hours of great content, interactive for the students, and learn about cyberbullying, social media anxiety, sexting, how to avoid some of these things, how to look out for some of these things, internet scams, all that kind of stuff. So when they do have a phone or they are starting to engage with social media, they're way better equipped and not running into some of the things that some of these students are running into.
Right. You obviously know about it. Joanne, tell us a little bit why you think it's so important for kids or for parents to take their students through self-improvement before they give them a phone.
I mean, when we were looking at something for our teenager, or soon-to-be teenager, there was nothing. And I was like, I'm not handing him a phone without him having the knowledge, of what he's getting himself into. And I think that a lot of parents and students don't know what they're doing when they have a cell phone. And I think parents need to get educated on that, and students, about what happens when they have their cell phone, what happens when they get bullied, what happens when they're on social media, those kinds of things.
It's so important. And a lot of parents are just like, we don't know what to do. What do we do? So this is the first course in America established to teach kids about the downfalls, pitfalls, challenges of having a cell phone and how to use it in a positive way. It's shot in a YouTube, TikTok format. Again, it's about 8 hours. It's nationwide. Parents, we encourage you, get a hold of your school districts, get a hold of your school administrators, ask them to bring this into the schools like they do driver's ed and all these other things. It's so important. And we even have some schools that are making it mandatory to say you can't bring your phone on campus unless you have taken this course. So it's so great. Visit the website today, selfimpermanent.com. But we want to talk today about the subjects of dating. The subject of how do I find the right person, right? How do I get into this? What do I do? Is it all online dating now? Apps, swiping left, swiping right, swiping up, down. I don't know which way you're supposed to swipe now, but that's totally different from how we met.
I don't think you should be swiping at all.
Well, I'm not swiping at all. I'm just saying
I'm not you. I'm just saying.
In general. In today's culture, there are all these online platforms, Christian Mingle and everything.
Yeah.
Or just meeting someone on Instagram and all that.
This episode was sponsored by Farmers Only. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't. I'm kidding.
So I think the question comes up a lot of like, how should I find someone, especially as a Christian? I'm a Christian. I want to marry a Christian. What are some of the steps, or where are the places I can meet someone and connect, and what do I do with first steps if I like someone? What kind of those, we get those questions all the time. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm in my I think for us the mindset we've taken is not to start dating until you're ready for marriage. So if you are like, hey, I'm 15, I'm 13, I'm 17, well, when do you want to get married? 27, 30, 25. Yeah, you have no business getting into a dating relationship, because dating advertises a product that marriage doesn't deliver, and dating leads to divorce. And what happens is people get into a relationship at 13, they break up. 15, they break up. 16, they break up. 17, they break up. And what happens is they practice falling in love and then breaking up. And what happens is you end up playing like you practice. And so practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And so now you have become professional at divorce. You've become professional at the minute you have a disagreement, the minute you don't like each other, you have become professional at getting out of the relationship. So I think the first step is not getting into a relationship until you are ready for marriage. What does that mean, ready? emotionally? Are you emotionally ready? Are you physically ready? Are you financially ready? Are you spiritually ready? Are you ready in these kind of areas of your life to take that next step? And if you're not, spend those years investing into yourself and getting yourself ready, because the greatest gift you can give your spouse is a healthy you.
That's a very unpopular.
Oh my
thing to say.
gosh.
Yeah.
So unpopular.
And I think you can't determine whether you're ready or not, you as an individual. You need to go to your mentors, your pastors, your
Parents.
leaders, your parents, asking them, do you think I'm ready? Because a lot of people think that they're ready and they're not. And then they get frustrated when they're just not, like, life is just not happening for them. But maybe it's because something needs to change in your life and you just don't see it, but other people can see it in you.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
good.
That's so true. If you're like 15, 14, if you say, well, I'm not ready, I'll be ready in 7, 8 years. So let me maybe find someone now and date now, because in 23, 25, I want to be married.
Right. You're crazy. You're out of your mind.
I think especially if you're a Christian. If you're a
There's
Christian,
no way that you can maintain sexual purity for that many years. It's like going sitting in a restaurant and you're not eating for 5 years and you're right at the buffet. I'm not going to eat. I'm just going to look at the food.
yeah,
I just want to hang around the food. I don't want to touch it.
Right.
I don't want to eat it. I just want to hang around it.
If you're a Christian,
Are you
and
crazy?
you say I'm a teenager or a young adult that is committed to waiting until marriage, committed to sexual purity, honoring my future spouse, whoever that is, then to hang around that close in close proximity, one-on-one, going on dates, and feel like you're never going to cross that line for years.
It's
That's not gonna
torture.
happen.
Why
It's
would
not
you
gonna
torture
happen.
yourself like that?
And you're dating somebody else's spouse. Like, why would you want to date somebody
If you
else's
don't
wife
marry
or
him,
husband?
it is somebody else's spouse.
Like,
And then kissing someone else's
Yeah.
spouse, sleeping with someone else's spouse.
And you can never unknow who you've known, and you can never forget. That's why only God has the ability to forget, because God is the only one who has nothing to learn from our mistakes. But we need to learn from our mistakes, so we don't have the ability to forget. Only God can forget. And you can never unknow who you've known. And so if she slept with, however many men before I married her, and I slept with however many women before I married her, now we bring baggage into marriage. And not only do I have to put my arms around her, but I have to now put my arms around any man she ever put her arms around. And she has to put her arms around anyone I've ever put my arms around, and now she's competing with my past, and I'm competing with her past. And that's why God says, don't do this. God created love and marriage to be like that permanent sticker. You get your car, and every year you have to put that new 2021, 2022 sticker on it. You're really careful where you stick it. You're always really careful where you stick something that you can't unstick. And that's how God made love. And I don't know if you've ever stuck that on there and it was crooked and you tried to peel it back off. You can't get all of it off. You leave pieces of it on there. And that's how it is. It's like, I'm going to get in a relationship and I'm going to leave pieces on you and pieces on you and pieces on you. And now you go in to get married and you only have a little bit left because you've put so much of you on other people. Mm-hmm. And I think that, God created love to be that way. And that's why we don't want our kids getting into a dating relationship before they're ready for marriage, because love is manifested in giving. For God so loved that he gave, right? If you only know one verse, that's the verse John 3:16. For God so loved that he gave. And so love makes you give. And now that I like you and you like me, and now that I love you and you love me, if I can't give you a ring and a date and a home, I'm going to give you all I have, which is my body. Yeah. See, teenagers are homeless. They're homeless. They live in our home, right? They're homeless people that we have taken into our house, and they have nothing to give. So when you let a teenager go on dates and get into love, they're going to give their body because they have nothing else to give than their body. Because they cannot give a ring and a date and a wedding and a home. They're going to give what they have because I love you and I got to give you something, so I'm going to give you me. And that's why it's dangerous for parents, I think, to let their kids get into those dating relationships. And it is popular, like you said. Parents are driving them. They're driving them to the dates. They're picking up. They're giving them the money, and then they wonder why. Like, oh, I can't believe you slept with this person. You let them fall in love, and that's why the Bible says, "Don't awaken love until the appropriate time." Because once you awaken it, you can't put it back to sleep. So don't awaken that thing, and then you need those. Back to what Pastor Joanne said. You need those pastors and coaches and teachers in your life. So if it was like a picture, and I was going to hang a picture up on this wall right here, I would look over here at Emily and go, Emily, what would I ask you, Emily, if I hung a picture on the wall here?
Is it straight?
Is it straight? And the reason I ask her if it's straight is because I'm too close. And And that's what happens when you get into like an intimate relationship with a person. You're too close. To me, it looks right. But to Emily, she's like, it's crooked. It's like completely crooked. What do you mean it's crooked, Mom? You're just trying to ruin my life. I'm not trying to ruin your life. I'm trying to save your life. And that's one of the reasons why you need to give your parents, your pastors, those coaches, those mentors, those people in your life permission to tell you if it's lining up or not, and not get in a dating relationship until you're ready for marriage.
Yeah. So then you have, we've all been in youth ministry for several years, worked with a lot of students. Then you have
and survived.
And we've seen a lot of different situations. But then you have, you say this to a teenager in high school, and all their friends and other people and culture, and everyone in every high school TV show and every high school movie is dating. It's all about dating.
Hooking up.
And hooking up. And so you're telling them, hey, you're a Christian, live for purity, live for God, and don't date till you're ready to get married. But now they meet this girl or they meet this guy, they have a crush on them. And what do I do with those feelings? What do I do? And I've often told students in that place, you get to know people, and it's not wrong to have a crush on someone. That's not a sin.
No, you're going
someone.
to.
And you might want to get to know them. It might be kind of cool to get to know them, because it might be someone in the future when you are ready to actually pursue something with. In the meantime, group dates, hang out with friends, hang out in groups, hang out in larger settings. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to get to know them. Well, what are you getting out of the one-on-one date that you can't get out of the group date?
If it's just about getting to know them.
The real reason you
talk
about one date, because you can get to know them.
We want to Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
We want to watch movies and get to know each other.
Right. We don't want our parents there. We don't want our other friends there.
Yeah.
The real only reason you want to do the one-on-one date is because you actually want to move physical.
Right.
That's the stuff you wouldn't do in public. But if it's about, I want to get to know them, know their personality, hear their story, see if we might be a good match at some point, you can get to know that all in group settings. And so I would say
if you're compatible.
Yeah, to see if you're compatible.
If you're, the Bible doesn't say can two walk together unless they love each other. It says can two walk together unless they agree. And that's really it's not even agreeing over visions. It's values. When people come to us and they say, we're looking at getting married, and we got the same vision. He wants to be successful. I want to be successful. He wants to be wealthy. I want to be wealthy.
He loves the Lord. I love the Lord.
Yeah, he loves the Lord. I love the Lord. He wants to have kids. I want to have kids. We have the same vision. This is for us. It's like, no. People don't divorce over vision. They divorce over values.
Yeah.
Vision is what you want to do. Values are how you're going to do it. She wants to be successful. I want to be successful. But success to me is working 80 hours a week. Success to her is me working 20 hours a week, right? I want to love God. She loves God. But her loving God is saying, I'm going to be in church. I'm going to serve God's house. We're going to pray together, fast together. And me going, we go to church on Christmas and Easter. I'm a CEO Christian, right? Christmas and Easter only. So the vision may be the same. Even with kids, we both want kids. But, how we're going to raise kids. Do we agree on those things? So what you really want to discuss are the values. Not just vision, but values. Values are not where we're going, but how we get there. They're not the boat, they're the rudder of the boat. They determine the direction that we're going to go. And I think when you have that opportunity in group settings to talk with someone, you really want to discuss values. And the good thing about group is if you got in a group and you realize it's not the right person, now it's not awkward.
Yeah.
Because you were in a group. We've never been out one-on-one.
Now, yeah.
Once you go out together, once it's just you, and you no longer do that, you've created the white elephant. As long as you are in a group, learning that person, and you realize, it doesn't work, you've never created the white elephant. And I think that's the thing that is also so powerful in having group settings.
Yeah, what I think some people do instead is they start dating. This is more common culture. They start dating and ask kind of the light, fluffy questions. What's your favorite color?
What's your favorite ice cream? What difference does it make?
And then
we both just buy
we buy our
ice
own.
cream we want.
And
We
then the
just buy our own.
attraction and the emotion gets in there. And 3 months later, 6 months later, now you finally realize actually our values don't line up.
Yeah.
But now you're so tied to them because you've already maybe gotten physical. In today's culture, third date maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I
Third
think
date,
a lot of Christians feel like just because I didn't have intercourse, we didn't have sex.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not true.
Oh, we had oral sex, or, we've touched each other everywhere. It's like, hey, hold on a second here. Like this has crossed the line.
Because there's an intimacy and a closeness and an emotional tie that comes with all those things.
Yeah, a soul tie, and you can never unknow who you've known. And even though you quit, like I said, you cannot forget. And so I think one of the things that Pastor Jan and I always try to instruct someone who is ready. If you go, okay, I'm not ready, what do I do? We'll work on getting ready. That's the first step, right? Is spend the next several years, focus on you. It's also so great because this is such a small season of your life to focus on you.
Like, enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
As a mom of 8 and married for, how long have we been married? 18?
Come on.
You probably
17 years? It'll be 18 years this year.
17 years.
Enjoy being single. Like, you have the rest of your life to be with this person. Like, you have the rest of your life to raise kids. You have, because they're not leaving. As soon as you have one, that's it. Like, you're done. Like, the rest of your
There's
life,
not a day
you
off.
have this child.
Yeah, you're never a parent again.
Yeah, you never can like just get in your car and go do what you want to do all day long.
I know I'm new at this. We have a 1-year-old, and that is I'm still learning. Like, that has now changed.
It has.
Forever.
Yeah. Like, you're never getting rid of Wes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Even when he's grown, you're still going to be worried about him. You're still going to be thinking about him. You're going to be thinking about his kids and his family. And it's like a nonstop thought in your mind. So it's like, enjoy just thinking about you and your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And there's a devotional
It's so
level.
true.
Yes.
There's a devotional level you can have with God as a single person. 1 Corinthians 7 says that. When you're not married, there's a different devotional level you can have with God. So take the time while you're not married to dive into God's house and his word.
And you need it.
Yeah.
You need that time with you and the Lord in order to have a marriage of 18, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Because there's going to be moments where you're going to be like, God, I trust you. But you're not going to know. You're not going to know that unless you had that time with him where you actually had a relationship with him. You spent time with the Lord. You were doing things that he wanted you to do. You were able to volunteer at church whenever you wanted to. Like, you could just do what you wanted to do or what God is calling you to do.
And you don't get married because you're sexually frustrated. Because you'll be married. Ask any married person. You'll be married and be sexually frustrated, right? Like, all that's going to happen.
Poll all the marriages in our church, and I bet you 90% of them will say the same thing.
We're sexually frustrated. You know?
Yes.
And so that's not a reason to get married. And I don't know if you asked the question, I think you did earlier in this podcast, is, why would God give me all these feelings and emotions and I'm not able to act on it? I'm not able to move forward with it. And that is, most of, these students are hitting puberty as teenagers. Why would God let me hit puberty, have all these feelings and these emotions, and I'm not getting married for 10 years?
And
I'm not getting married.
And attraction.
My hormones, testosterone's going through the roof, estrogen, all these kind of stuff. My body's, evolving and all these kind of things. Why do I have all these feelings? And I mean, when that testosterone hits, it's like, it's like a shot, in your brain. And it's just like, what is happening? And I mean, it's real.
I also believe that, the kids went through that later on than they are now.
I think kids are going through that earlier.
Very early.
With all the hormones and meats and things that we're eating.
And then the
and
things
whatnot.
we have access to that we see and we watch
We're
on TV.
very a sexualized society.
Exposed
just
more,
everything
very
is
sexual society.
On your forefront of your mind.
Especially with phones and whatnot, selfimpermanent.com.
Yes.
But again, all those kind of things are leading to that. But the reason I think God lets us, go through these things at an early age or be exposed to those feelings of wanting to be with the opposite sex or sleep with the opposite sex, is to learn how to steward those feelings and not act on them. For instance, if you don't learn how to steward that, you're 15, you're 13, you're 17, and you're having these emotions, man, I want to sleep with the opposite sex. I'm in my early 20s, I want to sleep with the opposite sex. And you've never learned how to say no to that. You've never learned how to steward it. Then what happens is when you get married, marriage doesn't handle all those feelings. So now, you didn't learn how to handle it 15, 16, 17, 18. You got hooked on pornography. You didn't learn how to handle it. It led you into masturbation. It led you into, leading down multiple orgasms a day. And now your brain is so wired to end up having like multiple orgasms a day. And you've been doing this now for years. Mm-hmm. You've been addicted to seeing, hundreds or thousands of women completely nude for years. And now your wife is now competing with the millions of women that you have looked at and you're used to having orgasms 3-5 times a day, and now you can't tell your wife that. You feel like you can't tell your wife that. And so you're sleeping with her once or twice a day. You first get married, maybe even more. But now you're looking at pornography on the side to still get those fixes because you never learned how to steward it. You never learned how to say no. And every time, not to get into the whole science of this, but every time that you have that orgasm and that that chemical is released in your brain, it's like it wants it more, it wants it more, it wants it more. When you begin to say no to that and steward it, it actually subsides. And it's just like anything. You want sugar all the time. You eat sugar all the time. You want sugar more. You drink coffee all the time. You want more coffee. Like any drug. And so if you don't learn to steward that at a young age, what happens is you get married and you get really messed up. And now you're in pornography, and you're married, and your wife can't understand why are you looking at pornography. And I thought we were still having sex. Like, am I not meeting your needs? And now she doesn't feel like she's enough. And it just dominoes. So the big reason why you need to learn how to steward your sexuality at a young age is that when you get married, you learn how to steward it. And nobody taught us this when we were young. Church never really took the time to talk about these things. They didn't talk about it. Let's just not bring it up. And so you learned about it from the world. And so I think talking about those things to young men and young women, and learning how to steward your body and realizing this is a good thing and God's teaching you how to steward it now helps you to have a more successful marriage as you get older.
That's good. Mm-hmm. So say you're at the place where you're like, all right, I think I am ready spiritually. I've been growing in my walk. Financially, I got a little stability there. I kind of have an idea of my career path and things like that. Now what? Now where do I meet them? What's a good place to meet them? How do I interact? What do I do? What do I do now? How do I, find the right person? How do I stay selective on what I keep my standards high and all that kind of stuff? What do you guys suggest?
I mean, I guess for me, I would say don't put so much pressure on yourself. If you're ready, it's going to happen. It'll come. And you have to let your mentors and your pastors, your leaders, your friends, they might have a friend that they know that is a great guy, and he would be, because they know what values you have. So they're going to try and find you someone that has the same values you have.
Helps you be compatible.
Yes. So you're just like asking the people in your life, say, hey, I'm ready to get married. Can you help me? If you find somebody, my mom introduced me to him. I
owe her.
I was very anti the idea. I'm not saying I was like, hey, yay, my mom introduced me to my husband. But I'm glad.
Don't let her fool you. She was into Jonathan. She was all about some Jonathan.
But you mean the idea of your mom hooking you up,
that
right?
My mom is not gonna hook.
Find the right person.
No.
Right.
But I'm thankful that that's what happened. She saw him and she thought, hey, I think he would be a great fit for my.
She was interviewing me when I met her, and I didn't know she was interviewing me. But I agree with what you're saying. I think having a step, not the only step, but a step is letting your parents, your close friends, mentors, coaches, pastors, let them know, hey, I'm looking, I'm open,
That's that. I can attest to that. I made some decisions before asking for advice that went down the wrong path. I finally realized, let me ask for it. I actually came to you guys. Let me the next time I do this, or I started getting interested.
Thank you for joining us on Confessionals here today.
I started finally seeing okay, there's this girl, my now wife.
Yeah.
And it was like, before I screw this,
I still can't believe you got her.
I don't know what I did.
God must have blinded her. So I'm just kidding.
I learned from the not doing it this way and getting advice to let me, before I screw this one up.
Yeah.
Let me get some advice.
Yeah.
Let me find out what questions should I ask. I ask these kinds of things. So my first date with my wife was an interview. It was like questions and questions, because we also went to church together, and I didn't want to get so far down the path of being in this relationship, being emotionally attached, and then realizing now we're not on the same page. So we got this old breakup thing, and then we both have mutual friends, and it's gonna be weird. Who broke up with who and why and all that.
Which is why you should do the group.
Yeah, we had group things
so
first.
Yeah.
We had a lot of group conversations. I had a small group. We all hung out together, young adults, and so I got to know her there first before I even realized, this is someone I want to.
Now, let's take it to the next step.
I'm going to use you as an example, but you were able to see her actions instead of just listening to her words. I think a lot of people just listen to what people say and not see them in action. Like, you saw her actions. You saw what she was doing in church. You saw what her values were. Like,
prior to the relationship.
Yeah, prior to the relationship. So you didn't have to like question those things. Like, you saw what she was doing, what she believed
Before we
in.
were in the place where we're trying to impress each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're not listening to just what they're saying. I think a lot of people are very good at, convincing people.
Well, I'll tell you what you said about, when you're ready, it'll come. That, honestly, is the most frustrating thing to hear.
It is.
When you're in your 20s.
I know.
And you're single and you haven't met them yet. You're
Yep.
here. People say that to you all the time. They say, "Oh, when you're ready, it'll come. Just trust God, it'll come."
Yeah. It will.
And I'm like, God,
It doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't.
like
where is she?
Yeah, it sounds like me going, "Hey, that six pack's coming. Just
Yep.
trust God." It's gonna come. It's like, it's not coming.
It's not coming.
I'm 43. It's not coming.
But Andrew, if you don't learn it now, you're not going to learn it later. Like, let's say something happens to you and you're believing God for healing and it's going to happen, but you're like, God, I don't see it happening anytime right now, but I know you're going to heal me.
So good.
So it's like, you gotta understand that God's just teaching you something. He's teaching you how to just trust his word and to know, I have the right person for you. Just wait. And you're not ready yet. Like, there's a reason why it's not happening yet. We don't know what that is. I don't know. I can't answer that question, but you have to understand you're learning something in that process.
On the other side of marriage, I can attest to it. I can tell other people now, God will do it, right timing. Mm-hmm. He knows, trust him, keep seeking him and all that kind of stuff. But on the other side of marriage, you're like, I don't see this.
It's hard to see. It's walk by faith and not by sight. And it really is a challenging thing. But the same way you have to believe God and use your faith for salvation, and you have to use your faith for healing, and you have to use your faith for deliverance, you have to use your faith to believe God to send the right person.
That's right.
You don't just say, well, I'm believing God for healing, but, I'm just going to go do whatever until he heals me. I'm going to turn to Ouija boards and turn to all these other things because he's not doing what I want to do when I want him to do it.
Yeah, you end up forcing it.
Yeah, you have to. You can't stand in for God like a substitute teacher. And then the other thing I would say is, if you are ready, is begin to pray and ask God to show you your spouse in a vision or a dream.
Yeah.
So most people use this term. I've noticed by hanging around a lot of teenagers, young adults, or even adults, they use this term feelings, or I just feel. I really feel like he's the right guy, or I really feel like he's not the right guy.
Feel a connection. I feel the sparks.
It's all
that's just attraction.
Feelings, right? Feelings. And the thing about feelings is feelings will lie to you.
Yes.
And we have to walk, according to the Word of God. We have to get a vision from God. Remember, I said in another podcast that God's first language is not English. God's first language is vision, is in dreams. And so begin to ask God to show you a vision or a dream of your spouse. What do they look like? What are they doing? Show me us doing something together, so that when I meet them, I'll go, that's you. I saw you. I saw you before I met you, and I saw us doing this. If not, what happens is you'll start dating a bunch of people and you'll operate in feelings to see if this feels right, because you can't see. You can't see because you have no vision. So if we were to turn off all the lights in the studio right now and I said, okay, let's get out of here, we'd have to feel our way out. Okay, this is the table, it's a microphone, okay, here's my chair, and we'd go really slow. And so what happens is, because people have never asked God to show them their spouse, what do they look like? What are they doing?
Right.
They have to feel. Okay, does this feel like the right? And so they date for 5, 7, some people 10 years feeling, because they can't see. Now, if you could see, the light's on in the studio, and I said, hey, Andrew, get out of here, you could run out of here. You could move quicker because you can see. When you can't see, you have to feel. And that's why people date all these people for all this amount of time, because they're trying to feel. And that's why he's not marrying you, and you've been dating him for years, because he's scared to commit to you, because first of all, you slept with him and now you're too close to the picture frame. He's scared it's not lining up right. So he's not going to marry you, because he's scared to marry you because it may be crooked, but he can't tell if it's crooked because he's too close. You probably would be married by now if you hadn't slept with him. Because as long as you keep your distance, you both can tell if it's lining up. The minute you sleep together, now it's like this, and you're scared to commit. He's scared to commit to you because he's not sure if this thing is lined up. And you guys are operating in feelings rather than sight, and rather than being able to see. So if you had a vision or a dream from God, you could move faster. So I sit down and ask him, what has God shown you? What does your spouse look like? I don't know. Well, what are they doing? I don't know. Well, what are you going to be doing with them? I don't know. Okay, you need to go to God and ask God to show you in a vision and a dream your spouse. So you don't have to just date all these random people, and every guy that asks you out, well, I guess I got to date him too because he could be the one. I guess I got to date her too because she could be the one.
Yeah, you can.
Everybody who asks me who I think looks cute, I got to say yes to because that could be the one. You can't say, this is who they are. I know what they look like. And I'm not saying explicit. Maybe there's some things that are explicit. But, the Bible says we see through a glass darkly. But this is who they are, and this is what they're doing. So that you can say, this is who I'm praying for. I'm believing God for this person. And when they come into your life, you're like, I know this is them.
Or I know this is not them.
Or I know this is not them. So I don't have to waste time dating or feeling someone else's spouse. Back to what Pastor Joanne said.
And I think people have such a desire to not feel lonely that they want to get married so quickly and so fast. And they feel like if they go through their 20s and they're not married yet, then there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. You have to be whole. Because if you're not whole, you can get married and still be lonely. Because you could have married the wrong person. And that person doesn't feel you because God is the only person that can feel you. And I think we have the wrong mindset when we're going into it. You need to be a strong, whole person going into a marriage. And so then when that person comes into your life, it's just adding to you, not fulfilling you. Do you know what I mean?
I think there's this popular concept of two halves. That's my other half.
Yes.
But you shouldn't be a half a person before you
be a
meet
whole
them.
person.
You should be a whole person in God. Like
Single
God.
means whole.
Yeah, God has made you complete. Two whole people become one, not two halves make one.
Yeah, and when you get married, it's two become one, but they don't become one like this. They become one like this, where you can't even tell that there's two.
Yeah.
You literally become one, and celebrate that, the differences in each other, because her differences are not her weaknesses. Those are her strengths. My differences are not her weaknesses. Those are her strengths. And so I think that's really how you have to see it. And it is complicated. Mm-hmm. It is. I get it. And the world has made it more and more complicated. And it's funny because we'll have guys in the church and it's really unfair in a lot of ways because we've seen guys in our church and maybe some of them can be a little socially awkward or maybe they're not quite sure how to approach a girl and so they just walk up to a girl, and they're like, hey, how are you? Or can I help you to your car or whatever? Well, if the girl thinks he's cute, they're like, oh, it's so sweet.
That's
he was
awesome.
so kind.
Oh, he's so cute.
But if they don't like him, they're like, he's a creep. He totally freaks me
and they do
out.
the same
So
thing.
mean.
You need to tell the church safety. And it's like, why are we having to call the church safety? Why are you so freaked out? He just asked you if he could help you to your car.
Or he just asked if you could be friends on Instagram.
Yeah, he just asked if he could follow you on Instagram.
But if he was cute,
oh, they would be loving it.
They'd be like, oh, he was so great, and he was such a gentleman. And because you don't like him, now he's a weirdo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's not a weirdo. He's trying to be a nice guy.
And then it discourages guys to really try to meet someone or approach the girl that they are interested in.
It does.
Yeah, it does. So I don't think, I really, just to speak to women in that moment, and obviously you can speak to that more, I just think, not putting people in some category of a weirdo or a creeper just because you may not find them attractional.
Exactly.
You don't want to date according to type. We would do that. They'd say, oh, I'm interested in getting a relationship. And we're like, well, what about this person? Oh, they're not my type. They're like a brother or something. And it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean type? How did you get a type? You mean like type food? Like my type food is like peach cobbler, anything fried. Basically is my type. Fried okra, mashed potatoes, cornbread. But my purpose, if I want to look the way I want to look, is salad with nothing on it, right? And your purpose, is not always the same as your type. So your type might be, oh, he's 6'4", tall, dark skin tone, caramel, right? But your purpose is 5'1", maybe he's 240 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, you may miss your purpose running after your type, because 6'4" and fine don't mean a thing at 40 if he doesn't have a spine, if he doesn't have a backbone, if he's not willing to stand up for God, if he's not willing to stand up for you. And so I would encourage you, make sure you hone in on your purpose, not your type.
Well, looks fade.
Looks fade. I tell her, I'm not always going to look this good. You need to get everything you can get now. I'm not always going to look this good. So you got to take advantage of the situation now. But it's definitely the truth. Looks fade. And life changes. Life evolves, and you don't always know what life's going to throw your way. And so having a person, the Bible's true, a threefold cord is not easily broken. Because even if her and I disconnect for a moment, if we're both connected to God, we're still connected. So he becomes a third one in that marriage that keeps us connected, because we're both connected to him. And so having him a part of your life is huge. And so I think those are some of the things that, obviously we could talk about this for, weeks on end.
I would just say my last piece of advice would be, we tell parents to pray for their kids' spouses, but not kids, but teenagers, older teenagers, young adults, they should be praying for their spouses. Because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they're walking through. Like, Lord, keep them, protect them. I would start praying for your spouse, whoever that is.
That's good advice.
Yeah, asking God to bless them, keep them, protect them. Don't let them get in all kinds of debt or trouble or baggage. Don't let them get into relationships that hurt them and scar them. And the things that you've got to look at when you're in that relationship is, getting to know someone's past. Like, what have you been through? Are your parents married? Well, I never knew my father. Okay, well, you not knowing your father does affect you in some kind of ways. And not that you can't be the one, not that can't be overcome, or I didn't know my mother, or my parents were divorced, but a lot of times people oversteer. They overcorrect. So, for instance, like Pastor Joanne, she would say, like, my parents didn't have a lot of money growing up. I never had like the certain things that I wanted, or was able to wear certain things I wanted. So, if, like, for our kids, she wants to buy them like all these clothes. Like, she wants to make sure they always have all these clothes.
And for pastors, toys.
Yeah, so like I didn't have all these toys growing up, so like I want to buy my kids all these toys. So people overcompensate, or they tend to oversteer in certain areas. And so it's not that can't be something you can overcome, but you got to know you're going to walk through this. If you date somebody who's an alcoholic, you will pay more for car insurance. There's a much higher percentage that they will, make a bad decision when relapse they are drunk
or something. Yeah.
There's a huge chance that they're going to relapse on you. And it's not that, again, you can't do that, but it's kind of like when the Bible says don't be unequally yoked, it's not saying don't marry somebody who doesn't have the same father that you have, right? Same God. When it says don't be unequally yoked, it means don't marry somebody who can't run at the pace you want to run.
Right.
It's like don't yoke an ox to a duck, because somebody's going to get hurt. Like, don't do that. Make sure you can both run, because marriage is work.
It is.
Marriage is work. An ox, a yoke is like, you have two oxen and you put, the yoke over both of their necks, because you got to plow. You got work to do. Yeah. And so you don't want to yoke a cat to a horse. They're going to get hurt, because even if they both want to go, they're not at the same level. And what happens is you typically have to stop and deal with the one who's weaker, and that person becomes your ministry. Rather than helping you do ministry, they become your ministry. So, and rather than you and your spouse helping, like we want to minister to all these people who are struggling with addiction, your ministry becomes helping this one person with addiction. Yeah. And those kind of things are not easy fixes. Yes, God can deliver somebody in an instant, but that could be a 10-year fix. That could be a 20-year fix. And you have to really know what you're getting into, and am I called to do that? And some people are. I'm not saying that. Some people that is my ministry. Right. God called me to do that, and you're going to do it. But know that God called you to do it. Don't get into it and think, well, they're going to change. Men go into marriage hoping she won't change.
She'll stay the same forever. Look
the same forever, stay the same forever, act the same forever. Women go into a marriage or relationship hoping he will change.
Well, once I'm married to him and I do good with him, he'll change.
Yeah, once he's loved properly, he won't cheat anymore.
That's not going to happen.
Everybody's on their best behavior now. If they're not fun now,
they're not going to get fun.
They're not going to.
Whatever happens while you're dating,
be more fun.
Whatever happens while you're dating is just way more exposed when you're married.
Oh yeah, if his level of fun now is sitting in the recliner watching the game, and you're dating, that's fun. When you get married, there's not going to be more fun. There's going to be less fun, And so it's important that, you really have those conversations and talk about those kind of things. Talk about family because, it's not just me and you against the world. It's our families are coming together. If something goes wrong with her family, I'm impacted. If something goes wrong with my family, she's impacted. And so I think those are the kind of conversations you want to talk about in terms of unity, in terms of values. Do we value our family members? Do we value these kind of things? And really sitting down and talking those things through and making sure that, your values, not just vision, are aligned. So that gives us a kind of a little window. I think you all had some amazing things to share. And I hope this blesses somebody. I hope it encourages somebody. And hopefully we save some people from making some big mistakes.
Yes.
And maybe save some years and some heartache, tears, and pain and set some people up for some successes. Again, I want to thank our sponsor, cellphonepermit.com, for this episode. Parents, I'm telling you, get your kids in cellphonepermit.com.
Yes.
It's nationwide. Tell your school districts, tell your school administrators, request this. We want this brought into our schools. The bullying has got to stop.
That's right.
We've got to engage this. We've got to help our students with these things. And let's make it available. So Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, ring the bell, share this with somebody who you think it would really bless on your social media platform. And we hope to see you on the next episode. God bless you.